Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Optimizing Mother podcast, where I interview mothers like you, dedicated, thoughtful, and always striving to grow. Together, we explore various perspectives and approaches in chinuch based on Torah and Chassidus. Please remember, for personal questions or unique situations, please consult with your own Rebbe Mashpia. And now, I'm excited and delighted to introduce our next guest speaker, Mrs. Rishe Deitsch. Mrs. Deitsch is celebrating 45 years of the Neshei Chabad newsletter because she started at the age of 20. And she'll tell you soon, she may have even started in Beis Rivka. With the Neshei Chabad newsletter, Mrs. Deitsch has two goals. Number one, to spread the Rebbe's opinion on all topics. And number two, to help people avoid needless suffering. And we're going to go into that more. So welcome, Mrs. Deitsch.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's exciting for me to be here because I love Beis Rivka.
Wow. So let's dive right in. Since you are a proud alumna Beis Rivka and we are speaking to our mothers, can you just give us a little bit of like a feeling of how Beis Rivka shaped you in how you are raising your family, your children and your grandchildren, etc.?
I'll try. I came from Worcester, Massachusetts to Crown Heights at the age of 14 in order to go to Beis Rivka. I was interviewed by Maura Garwitz in her house. And I right away felt comfortable. I right away felt like this woman has my back. I'll be okay because she'll take care of me. And she did. She used to call me out of class every so often just to say, how's it going? Wherever I lived, she knew where I was living in the different places and she knew how. She just kept on top of things a lot. And she still does, actually. I still see her sometimes. She still asks me how I am and I still tell her. She already knew. So yeah, I figured that you're going through that. Like she just knows. Maura Garwitz is great. May she live and be well and have nachas from all her talmidos, always.
Amen.
I found Beis Rivka fascinating. For my first day, I remember my first day there, one of the teachers came in and said, give a push the chair in back of you against the wall. I was like, oh my God, I have to write this down. I right away wrote it down. And then another teacher walked in and said, or you come on time, or you get detention. It's like, this is another language. I'm going to learn another language. I know this from my quote book.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, we'll speak it over.
Oh my gosh, that sounds normal.
We'll speak it over.
You can't speak it over?
No, you talk it over. I rang it, but now I lost it. Okay, fine. Can you borrow me $1? If you want to borrow.
I threw my mother down the stairs a towel.
Exactly. Throw the baby out the window, a piece of bread. We'll eat by me or I'll go to you. That's New York.
You can't eat by me?
No, at my house. Simcha's just. I'm too tired, but. You don't put the but at the end of it.
I know, but.
There you go. I told her yesterday, even. Also, you don't put the even at the end of the sentence. I would have came, but I lost my bus pass.
I would have come.
It should be right. Okay. Go to Heshi's and buy something for yourself on the bill. This was a year that I was living in someone's house, and she said to me, go to Heshi's and buy. First of all, there was no store on Kingston that said Heshi's. The sign said International Chocolate and Almond Corporation. How are you supposed to know? I come from Worcester, I'm 14 years old. I'm supposed to know that's Heshi's? And also buy something for yourself on the bill. There's no bills in Worcester.
There's no bills.
Either you pay or you don't get it. You don't say, put it on the bill. This is like a home. And on my first day in Beis Rivka, I started my first quote book, volume 1. Now I'm on my 8th volume.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically the reason I went out with my husband and he said, I want you to meet my mother. And then he said, just pick anyone at random. And I was like, well, if I marry this guy, I'll have quotes for the rest of my life.
Do you ever publish these books?
I never published them, but 90% of them are my husband, actually. But a lot of them started in Beis Rivka. I found it fascinating. Also in Worcester, we had co-ed classes. We were learning with boys. And in a co-ed school, popularity is one. There's really only one way. If the other gender notices you and you're just cute enough, then you're a success. If for some reason you're not a success with the other gender, you're a flop. And on my first day in Beis Rivka, I walked in and I saw like 5 girls arm in arm with each other doing this hop and skip down the hallway and yelling, right, right in the middle of the kitchen floor, left my wife with 48 kids. You ever heard that one? And I looked at these girls and I was like, wow, look at that. They're so uninhibited. You would never do that in a school with boys. I said, I'm going to like it here. I think I'm going to like it here. And I right away noticed, it took me maybe a week or two to realize that in Worcester, in a co-ed school, nothing to do with Worcester, co-ed, popularity is won by being liked by the boys. And here, you could be popular because you do well and get good marks. You could be popular because you're funny. Or you could be popular because you're kind-hearted. You're kind. Wow, this is great. I think I'll go for the funny. I knew I was going to get such great marks. But I saw different people being popular for those reasons. And I thought this is a much better way of life. I would definitely suggest separate schools for their boys' sake and for the girls' sake. Better for everybody.
Any teachers that come to mind that specifically shaped you?
Well, I can never, ever forget Maura Nyman. I'll tell you, as much as I was shocked on my first day by the running down the hall and the total uninhibited behavior of the girls, my second shock was meeting Maura Nyman. It's not just that I had never met anyone like her before in my life. I also didn't know that people like her exist. The way she looked, do you remember her?
Sure.
I forget her. She was absolutely edel, soft-spoken, graceful, dignified, like royalty. She spoke slowly, so even when it was Hebrew or Yiddish, which it mostly was, I could understand it perfectly. And jumping ahead, a few years after I left Beis Rivka, when I had already a few little children, I was at a wedding, and I saw Maura Nyman, and I ran over to say hi to her, and I told her that when I say Tehillim, I still remember the Mefarshim she taught us on Tehillim. She taught us Tehillim. Margaret taught us Perish HaTfilos. I remember the teachers that I loved. I remember everything they taught us.
I remember Maura Nyman also. Chazai Nishayo, I remember it.
She taught us Tehillim. And and I said to her, but now I have 5 little kids and I hardly say Tehillim anymore. I don't have time. And she said to me, Vel, if you're not saying Tehillim because you're busy with your children, this is okay. But if you're reading the Shtussidike women's magazines, this is not good. And of course, that's what I was doing. I was reading the Shtussidike women's magazines. And I went home from that wedding. I canceled my subscriptions. And I started right then and there, Friday after Liv mentioned, instead of reading the Shtussidike women, I started davening with my children. Out loud, the Camp Amuna tunes, And the davening with Friday night took off. We always did it. Sometimes nieces and nephews would join us. My daughters grew up and they made a I don't know what it's called, some high-tech word called Six Deitsch Sisters. You can find it on Spotify where they sing the Friday night davening. Now their kids sing. Now I do it with my grandchildren. It became all because of Maura Nyman, because she didn't hesitate to say, this is right and this is wrong.
I don't know who I'm more blown away by, Maura Nyman for saying it or you for actually taking her words to heart and really doing it.
Maura wasn't worried about, connection over correction. She corrected. She didn't say, are you? She just said, if you are. Somehow she had a feeling about it.
But she also said things with so much love. So much sincerity.
Absolutely. I would light up when Mordechai Elite, now Martel, when they all more girls would walk into the room like they had it was a secret language that I figured out. If they walk in and they stayed standing, they're making an announcement. If they walk in and they sit down, they're going to teach. But if they're leaning on the desk, they're going to farbrang. They're going to farbrang, and I loved the farbrangings. I really did.
Okay, so even though you officially started in Sheikh Chabad newsletter at age 20, tell us a little bit about your experience being an editor in Beis Rivka High School. What did you do?
So they had 2 Hebrew editors and 2 English editors.
For the yearbook?
Yeah, for the yearbook. The English editor was Marcella Soror and me. And I'm guessing they chose us just because we wrote well. We wrote well. We knew English. That I learned in Worcester. I learned a lot in Beis Rivka, but the English I really got, Worcester was very, very ahead. A lot of the books we were reading in high school I had already read in 8th grade in Worcester. So that's why I got picked to be an English editor.
And what was that experience like?
Okay, I remember writing my editorial, and I read it over recently again, and I still like it. I'm not blushing and rolling my eyes about what I wrote when I was 17. Basically, I wrote that the reason I'm not sad about leaving my classmates is because, of course, we all came together in Beis Rivka, but Beis Rivka is not really our real alma mater. Our real alma mater is 770. So we're still going to see each other always, the rest of our lives at 770.
Oh, wow. That's really what unites us and, our mission, etc.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'd love to dive into chinuch a little bit more. And, with so many different opinions and bombardments on our children and chinuch. And it didn't start in 2025. In the end of the day, you live in America, you're going to be bombarded with so many different messages. So the question is, how can we make sure that our children form the right opinions and beliefs when they're surrounded by so much?
Well, first of all, I would say daven. It's like when people ask me about shidduchim, I say less phone calls, more tillim. I don't think that our success with our children is necessarily our doing. I think the Rebbe is helping us, and I think Hashem is helping us. I'm definitely not smarter than anybody whose kids turn out another way. I'm not. But I will say that we're raising our children in a time when secular culture, the opinions in secular culture are out. It's almost impossible not to know them. They're out there very, very strongly. And that's why it's important for us to tell our children our opinions, so we have a fighting chance. And I used to tell my children my opinions all the time, and I even told their friends my opinions. And now their friends who are in their 40s come back and say, "Yeah, Mrs. Deitsch, I remember you said about whatever." Oh, and when the kids came home from school needing to do a debate and they had to be the wrong candidate, I'm like, "There's no way I can help you sell that candidate. You go back and say you want to be the other you want to be the other one in the debate." I threw my opinions in very, very clearly. And I think it's tragic when people leave it to their kids to come to their own opinions. For example, secular culture will tell you that boys and girls are exactly the same and should be raised exactly the same. Torah doesn't at all say that. Torah doesn't say we're totally different. I mean, I'll give you an example. If it would be snow or bad weather or whatever reason, everyone's tired from a wedding, I would always let the girls stay home, but not the boys. The boys have to get them to yeshiva no matter what. Because if a girl spends the day helping her mother make supper, playing with the baby, taking the 2-year-old to the park, she's had a good day training for her adult life. That's not a wasted day for her. A boy has to go learn. And it's just different. And my girls used to complain, how come the boys don't do as many jobs as we do? I said, because they're doing the job that's going to prepare them for their adult life. And you're doing the job that's going to prepare you for your adult life. At the same time, I do think the boys should have some jobs at home. But honestly, in Crown Heights, they get home so late at night, and they leave so early that the girls should do more jobs. A neighbor of mine once asked me, when her kids are already teenagers, when do I start telling my children, discussing the important issues of the day? I'm like, seriously, you didn't do it yet? Like somewhere between 2 and 3 years old is when you have to start. Like they have to indoctrinate. Somebody once asked me, what are the three main points in raising children? I said, the three main points are indoctrinate, indoctrinate, indoctrinate.
Indoctrinate.
Yeah. Tell them what you think and tell them why. Make sure they get it. Have them tell it back to you. And I remember one time this Rivka sent home a letter that said, talk to your children about pop. I took my children, all my girls, over to the cabinet. I set chairs around. I took out all my pots. I'm like, listen, you don't buy aluminum. You don't go cheap. These pots are going to have for the rest of your life. Try to buy Trementina, the best brand. We talked about pot. But I mean, that's a joke. We did it. They remember it. But I'm saying in general, just talk to your children about everything. Because otherwise they're going to get.
So they need to know what Torah says. They need to know what the Rebbe says. They need to know what our approach is in order to counteract that. Can you speak a little bit more about when you're talking to your kids about your opinions? How do you emphasize to your girls, because this is a Beis Rivka podcast, specifically, what it takes and what it means to be a happy and proud frum woman?
That's a very important point, because nowadays it's like women have become like wannabe men. And feminism is responsible for that. Feminism is one of the greatest evils in our society. You're going to get feedback. You're going to get flack for that. But I have a sikha of the Rebbe that I published in Rishe years ago. It is my favorite sikha. I'll just read you a teeny bit from it, okay?
Sure.
Some mistakenly claim it is a victory for a woman to be the same as a man, and she has to do battle to prove that she can hold the same position as a man. She, too, can leave home early in the morning and come home late at night tired. In this way, she shows she's not inferior. She does exactly what he does. Even if it is not a career we are talking about, an intelligent Jewish mother or one who is preparing to be a mother can busy herself in many valuable endeavors. Hashem established the home and family so that the man does his part, the woman does her part, and hers is not less important. In fact, maybe when it comes to the children, her job is more critical than the man's. But if both the man and the woman are doing the man's work, who will build and uphold the Jewish home? Some women were required as a last resort in order to make parnasa to become busy with jobs outside the home. Rahman al a mistaken belief took hold in the world that the complete fulfillment for a woman is to do so regardless of need in order to be just like a man. This mistaken belief was fully embraced by our society, and now we see what this has accomplished. Different members of the family are not close with one another, not united, do not want to understand one another. We must change, again, I'm reading the Rebbe's words right now. We must change the mistake from its source. The man must do his part. The woman must do her part as a keres habayis, which might be even more critical than his. Not because she's unworthy of his holds, just the opposite. Dafka, she was chosen and entrusted with the chinuch of the children. From the moment of birth and 9 months before that too. She's entrusted with their care even during pregnancy, when they eat what she eats. For her to assume that she will be fulfilled only if she forgets all this and shows that she can be a good professional or a good wage earner would constitute a drop in status for her. Not only does she lose her dignity and underestimate her own strength, but Rahman al-Islam, the kingdom of Jewish families may be lost. This is the heartache. If you take a look at what is going on and what needs to be fixed, but instead of fixing the problems, we find Jews who have nothing more to worry about than to tear women away from their true mission, searching for ways to include them in a minyan, etc. They make a big women's liberation parade out of it, and with this they claim to have lifted women to their true potential. These mistaken people feel they deserve a big thank you, and the women celebrate, for now they believe they have reached true completion and liberation and fulfillment. Not even talking about the fact that much of what they do is against Minhag Yisrael and against Halacha. This affects the survival of Jewish families, the foundation of the whole Jewish nation.
It's so interesting because at the same time, the Rebbe wanted women to be shulchais, and the Rebbe wanted women to go into chinuch. I think the main thing, though, that the Rebbe is saying, though, is, but not like a man.
Exactly. And others do all that. It's needed. But what's your real first priority?
What's your priority?
First priority is the child.
What's your priority? What's your focus? And what's really your identity? What's your status? You don't need to do it to prove. But it's also interesting because you were saying about feminism being evil, and I think it has brought evil, but the Rebbe always has like this positive way to spin everything. The Rebbe said that the source for this feminism is the fact that Mashiach comes, there will be the idea of nekeva to seiv gever. And that's why feminism is coming to the world, because we're getting closer to a time when Mashiach comes. But it doesn't mean that we justify its like theory. It's just to understand that this energy of feminism, this might come out in the klipa way, but in the kedusha way, we are getting close to a very, very feminine era in a positive way. But it's important. It's important for us to know this as mothers, and it's important for us to educate our daughters like that, to know that that's their priority, to be in a keres habayis.
And to see from us that we love it, that we're happy with it. If we don't love it and we're not happy with it, there's no chance.
But what if someone doesn't love all the like mundane aspects of it?
I'm not saying she has to be the one mopping the floor. But if she doesn't love being with her children, talking with them, playing with them, it's not good. The mopping of the floor, the Rebbe told many people, a friend of mine, Goldie Tenenhouse, she wrote it in the Nishes, I know I can tell it. Her mother went to the Rebbe after she had, I think, 6 children and said, it's too hard, I can't anymore, I'm done. No more children. And the Rebbe asked her why, and she said, between the cooking and the housework, I'm exhausted. And the Rebbe said, take in outside help. And she said, we have one. And the Rebbe said, noch eine. Take another one. And Goldie remembers having 2 helpers in the house.
Wow.
And she had 4 more children, of which Goldie is one of them.
Wow.
So we have Goldie because of the Rebbe noch eine.
Noch eine.
And sometimes I say to my husband, I know we have a cleaning lady today, but I think we need noch eine.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need noch eine.
Do you feel like the way to change children is the same now as it was when you're raising your kids? Like, do you feel like things changed a lot?
I'll tell you the truth. I don't really remember that well how it was when my kids were young. Like, people call me sometimes with breastfeeding questions, and I tell them, if my youngest child is turning 30, call her. I don't really remember. I remember more about birth because I've been working in it all along. But like things like nursing, I send them to my kids, Also, one time I was talking to my children, and I said, I never potched my kids. And my son said, Mom, respectfully, I would very respectfully say, you patched me when I didn't get in the car. Like he told me all the times I patched him. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. So in other words, I'm not reliable now. I don't remember that well. I remember one tantrum. One. I raised 8 children. You told me there was one tantrum? It was Hindle when she wanted orange soda. I'm embarrassed that there was orange soda in my house at the time, but there was. Now, there for sure was more than one tantrum. At the time, also, when my kids were little, we basically had to make just one decision. No TV, which we discussed on our dates that we're not having a TV. That was a given. And then when VCRs were invented, which was a video machine, no VCR. We just decided no TV, no VCR. As soon as you decide that, your kids are already turning out good. Nowadays,
but it does take more effort to fill their time. You have to spend more time with them. You have no free babysitting.
In a way, but also that what happens is they learn to entertain themselves. Like they used to Hindle set up a whole classroom. She was always the Mora, and Shula set up a shoe store, and someone else set up Color War. Like they themselves used to put, and I was just like from the other room saying, wow,
Yay.
Want me to vote? And sometimes Hindle would make them come to me to sign their tests, And Zizi made Leia learn math late at night. Like I feel like they had ZLND, a camp, Zizi Leia and Rishe Deitsch. I feel like without a TV and without a VCR, they basically figured out more their own stuff. I remember once a friend of mine said to me, so what are you doing with your kids on Chol Hamoed? Where are you taking them? And I said, Chol Hamoed, we have one goal, survival. We're going to survive. And sometimes at the beginning of Chol Hamoed, I took them to Zaycon and we bought arts and crafts supplies, a lot. And they would spread it on the floor with arts and crafts supplies. I definitely wasn't taking them on trips. I wasn't up to it. There were so many of them and they were babies and double strollers, triple strollers. I wasn't able to do all that great stuff that a lot of people do. Just couldn't.
But that's a great idea anyway, to just get some crafts and have the kids play. Are there some things that you do remember, you said about speak to your youngest daughter. Are there other stories that you want to share of things that you learned from your own children?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. First of all, I want to say that when I visit my kids now and I see how they're raising their children, I'm in awe of them because they stay completely calm. They don't lose it. I did. I used to just explode sometimes. I'm not proud of it. I'm proud of my daughters. They don't lose it. They don't. And my daughter-in-law. By the way, speaking of keeping priorities, my daughter-in-law, also named Mrs. Deitsch, same name as me, she was a seminary teacher for a few years and very busy with it. And she did also that thing at home. Magalim, yes, she did that. She used to make
groups. And
she was baking and cooking and she was very, very busy with that. I mean, really. And then she had a baby and she cut way, way down. Like as much as that was a shlichus and she knows it is a shlichus, she has extreme clarity of what her number one shlichus is, raising her son. And other than that, she still does come once a week and she still, like even just this morning, she sent me a message that she needs a certain article about sneas, about social media. I love sending her articles, obviously. I'm thrilled when they're used. But priority she has. Now, about you asking about my children, what they taught me, I can tell you 2 stories that I'll never forget. My daughter, Shola, okay, now she's 45. So this is 40 years ago. She was 5 years old. She's my oldest. And they came home from school with an assignment. Build your own sukkah. Build your own sukkah. I right away got busy. I was collecting materials. And then I remember this. I'll show you. She held up her one little hand. She just held it up in the air. Like, like a stop sign. It's like wait, like stop, without a word. And I was like, oh, she thinks she can do it herself? Okay. I know she's a baby. And she went outside and she collected the leaves and she got the glue. We always had arts and crafts. And she made a sukkah herself. And I remember that little hentel up in the air. And after that, when the kids would come home with assignments, I saw that hand. I'm like, wait, maybe they can do it without you. Don't do it for them. That was something.
Which really fosters their independence.
And they could do it. I just thought they were all babies forever. They're not. That was number one. Another thing I remember also about Shula is that when she was about 5 or 6 years old, we had a wedding. And I bought all the girls these matching blue and pink flowered dresses with sashes. I love the dresses. Short sleeves, puffy sleeves. And like before the wedding, I had them try on the dresses. And Shula said to me very sweetly, very respectfully, Mommy, you bought it already, so I'll wear it if you want. But from now on, could I wear only sleeves that cover the elbows? She asked me.
So precious.
I'm like, oh my gosh, Shula, of course. I should have thought of that. I have to tell you, it was in the early 80s, and we weren't yet as aware of sneas as we are today. I really didn't think of it. Like even my own wedding picture, I wouldn't wear that today. I actually took the picture upstairs.
Is it because the Rebbe started speaking about it more?
I don't know the reason. I just know that somehow in the 90s, it became a thing that everyone's talking about, everyone knows about. Like now I know the halachas. In the 80s, I did. Like even in Beis Rivka, if you look at the yearbook, all the best girls are wearing skirts to the middle of the knee. I don't know why that was. It just was not a...
The Rebbe was raising us, so we were constantly growing.
But I have a theory about it. In Europe, where my grandmothers both were, in Europe, it was dangerous to look like a Jew. So our parents and grandparents were busy trying not to look Jewish in order not to get thrown into the gulag or shot on the spot. My bubbas didn't, they were frum. Of course they were frum. They did not cover their hair. And they came to America, and the Rebbe called in my Aunt Esther. This was in the 50s. And he said to her, you are a role model. A lot of people respect you and will copy you. If you put on a full sheitel, not a half sheitel, with a band or a hat, no, a full, if you put on a full sheitel, others will too. And he asked this of her. And I have to tell you, I don't think I ever saw her, even in a tichel. She was always wearing a sheitel. The Rebbe gave her, is that going to come out?
Well, edit that.
Thank you.
Say the sentence again.
The Rebbe gave her, I don't think I ever saw her in a tichel, and I lived in her house. She was like almost always in a sheitel. The Rebbe gave her that shlichus. She did it.
So that's what I mean. The Rebbe raised us that whatever we weren't, even in early America, not everyone had beards. And later on, you see how the Rebbe spoke and forbade and inspired us that this is the way, the ideal way for a chassid and a yid to be living their life. So it's also inspiring to me how, as a community, as adults, we grew. We took things on. We're advancing. The same way we don't have the same phones that we had 10 years ago. Like we're constantly upgrading. So also in Ruchnius, as a community, we were upgrading towards what the Rebbe was showing us.
So in a way, we're upgrading because we're now much more aware of tznius and we know what the halachas are. But in another way, we're slipping. Because if you walk down Kingston Avenue, what you see, you didn't see now. You didn't see that in the 70s. There's like a certain preachers that's very upsetting. I'm sure they're not Beis Rivka girls, but it's upsetting to see that in some ways we're slipping.
I hear you, and I think, it's always a good reminder for us to learn and grow. And I'm thinking again about this idea of growing and chinuch. You published 45 years of Neshei Chabad newsletters. I'm curious if you could share with us, was there one column on chinuch that really resonated with you more than any other?
I'll tell you, I was personally impacted by an article by my nephew, Rabbi Rishe Deitsch, Shliach in Arizona. It's in the Gimel Tammuz issue of Neshei 2025, and you can get it on Kingston Avenue.
Right now. Hot off the press, okay.
And hot off the press, exactly. He wrote about his memories as a child, growing up spending so much time in 770. And the Rebbe used to daven on a red chair on a rug. At the edge of that rug stood all these little boys. And they weren't always respectful. They weren't even sometimes they talked, sometimes they fought, and they for sure
right there near the Rebbe.
Right there. Sometimes they fiddled around and they took things from each other. And the Rebbe never turned around and went, "No, shut!" Never sent them away. He let them stand there behaving like the way they behaved. And I have to say that really impacted me personally. Like I had this thing Shabbos morning where when I'm with my grandchildren, where we daven Shabbos morning, we do. On page 156 in the regular siddur, we do the Kili Olam Chastais and the L'chai Olam Mims. There's Damuna. And then whoever wins, then I get up on a chair and I announce the winner of davening. First I announce the loser. Usually it's the baby. He doesn't say a word of that. Then I announce the runner-up and then I announce the winner. And then whoever's the winner gets to choose either a game of follow the leader or a game of hide and go seek or 20 questions. Chanel added 20 questions because when she won one time, she was lazy to get up and play the other games. Like, oh, Mom, how about just 20 questions, baby? But I'm saying, what was I getting at? Oh, so it used to be that I would go to my kids, I would make one announcement Shabbos morning. I'm davening now, whoever wants to daven. And now, ever since I read Rishe Deitz's article and how the Rebbe had patience, how the Rebbe stood there while they fought, ever since I read that, I'm like, Rishi, let me understand, Rishi. The Rebbe had time. But you don't have time for the kids. You davening once and you're done? Really? And after that, I changed my policy. If we finish davening and another kid rolls down the stairs or comes into shul, I'll start all over again. I'll do it 4 times. I just thought the Rebbe had that kind of patience and time. Rishi can also.
You know what else has reminded me? Lately, I've seen a lot of Facebook posts about people who make like kid-free weddings. They don't want kids there. I'm like, really? Like kids add the whole joy to the wedding.
That's the beauty.
So I'm thinking, even in a shul, yes, when kids are around, it's noisier, it's harder, but we're raising Yiddish kids to love Yiddishkeit. You're saying the Rebbe was there, and he knew the kids were shtiffing and whatever. Like accepting kids as kids. They're not going to do that when they're 50 years old.
And the Rebbe also obviously knew that they need to stand and watch it done.
Right.
So we have to give them what they need, even if they're making it a little harder for us.
Right.
It's worth my time. Definitely worth. If it was worth his time, it's worth all of our time.
Right. Wow.
He had the weight of the world on his shoulders, but he had time to tolerate that. I think Rishe Deitsch can tolerate it.
So beautiful. Since we were touching upon sneeze before, I'm curious, like, you have a lot of girls. How did you raise them with the value of sneeze? How did you teach it to them?
Well, you see, they taught me. Shul taught me. I mean, I learned it together with them. I mean, it was in the 80s and the 90s that it was, not the 80s, the 90s that it started to be taught. And then after that, what you might ask me is, well, how did you get them to want what you want? And that I can tell you, there's no way that a mother can do it by herself. There's no way, if I'm the only influence on my kids, I don't think. Kids, the mother is like the mother. She's mommy. But you need someone cool. And like in our family, it was my sister Etty. She's 7 years younger than me, so she's close to them in age. She's only like 12 years older than them. And like from Etty, they got the attitude that whatever mommy says is cool. We have to listen to mommy. We have to help mommy. I remember hearing Etty make them help me. Yeah, I'll take you, but first go do what your mother said. Like my sister Etty gave them that chinuch, that mommy is right. So I think we all need people like that in our life.
So you're saying every mother needs an Etty in her kid's life.
And you have to be the Etty for that friend of yours. Be it for each other. Also, I think really the best way, the most important way to have Hasidic children is to marry a man who is rock solid in his own Hasidishkeit.
Okay, you realize you're talking to people, if they're mothers, they're already married.
That's what Chanel told me, and I gave her an answer to that. I'm getting to that.
Oh, okay.
First, I want to say that marry a man who's rock solid. He's the head of the household. It all comes down from the top. As it says, there's an expression, the man is the head of the household, but the woman is the neck. So yes, he's the head of the household, but you have a lot of influence on him. And I know that a woman who sees her husband learning at night, she has two options. Either she can wait till the next morning and then say, when you were learning last night at the dining room table, the kids saw you. I felt like it had a very good effect on the whole family. Or you could say, when you were learning the other day at the dining room table, I felt like the whole house filled with light. Thank you for that. You could do that. Or you could say, again, I'm putting the kids to bed by myself. Again.
Or you could do this, or you could do this.
Or this, or that. So it's really, wow. Even if you're married already, you have that option. You can catch him doing the right thing and thank him for it. You will get more of it. What you focus on is going to increase, especially if you're grateful. Your gratitude will bring a lot more of what you want, and then he will be that father that you should have looked at Phil married, but you still make it. And my husband taught our children and taught me. He made us who we are. He really did. And he always had he's a very Hasidic guy, and he learns a lot, and he's about stuck, and he does a lot of favors that nobody in the world knows but me. The favors he's done for people walking to the house, like crying that their house is being foreclosed. He'll kill me if I talk about all the things he's done. I won't do it. But I will just say that at one point, he lost 2 brothers in a row. He sat Shiva 2 weeks in a row for his 2 brothers, leaving him with no brothers. And they were also his business partners. Gone. And then he went to work. And he came home from work after the 2 weeks. And I remember standing there and thinking, so what's going to be now? Like, what's our life going to be now? Is he just going to come home and go right to bed? Is he going to even look at, how's it going to be? And I remember he walked in and he hung up his coat in the closet. He turned around and he said, so, how was everybody's day? And I honestly felt like I'm looking at a giant. And he is very short. But actually, he's a giant. And that was such a lesson for the whole family. We're all standing there. What's going to be now? Oh, so even when you've gone through a terrible, terrible clap and then another clap, you still turn around and say to your kids, how was everybody's day? So I think marrying the right person is important. And for that, also I have Mara Garwitz to thank. because my mother-in-law, when she needed to marry off my husband, she called Hannah Garwitz and she said, "Nu, who do you have for a Misha?" And Mar Garwitz thought about it and she gave him 3 names. My mother-in-law just took the 3 names, gave it to the Rebbe. The Rebbe circled me. Done.
Wow.
So I have to thank Mar Garwitz. Thank you very much for my good life. Thank you.
You brought up challenges. I want to know if you could expound on this a little bit more. Obviously, what you shared about your husband is really powerful. Can you talk a little bit more about how you teach your kids what does a Yidden chassid do when Hashem just throws challenges their way and there's no one who's exempt and there's no one who doesn't have a hard time?
Anything you do or say, you are being mechanech by example, whether you want to be or not. Whether you would, when I get lazy about my tznius because we're going down to the pool, they see that. When I make sure I do my chitas early in the morning, out loud, they see that. Whatever I do, and it has a lot more impact than what I say. I believe in indoctrinating, but doing is more important than, it's more about nothing you say can undo what you do. And I hope that they see that when there's a tzara, I do Tehillim and tzedakah. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about with doing more than saying. I don't remember my father, Alav Shalom, Rabbi Yisrael Gordon. I don't remember him ever giving me a lecture on taking care of old people. I never got a lecture, but he just took me with him. He used to take me to nursing homes my whole childhood. As soon as I learned how to play piano, I would play for them and my father would sing. When I made mistakes, my father either said, "Very good, Rishe," when I made a mistake, or would blow me a kiss, and I have a video of it.
Interesting. When you made the mistake, that's when he said, "Very good, Rishe."
Yeah, because he knew I would probably cry and stop, run away because I made a mistake. So
he gave you the support, Daf, when you made the mistake.
Only when I made a mistake did I get the very good Rishe and a kiss. And
until what age? You said you had the video.
The video I have, I was about 60.
And still, when you made a mistake, you got the very good Rishe and the kiss.
And he was not well then. He had dementia. He wasn't well. But that was so instinctive to him that he still did it.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, I started making these videos and all that after he became unwell. Now, since my father took me to nursing homes, I never stopped going. People are stuck there. It's like prison. We got to go. And now I took my kids, and now I see my kids are taking my grandchildren. So it's much more about doing. No one ever gave anyone any lectures about old people and respecting them and helping them. It was done.
Do it, and then that's how the kids will absorb it.
And by the way, if you don't have a car and they think you can't go to nursing homes, just give me a call. I know lots of people in Crown Heights who need visits. In Crown Heights, or call Rachi Karolitsky or Bikochola. There's lots of people right here in Crown Heights who need lonely, stuck at home for whatever reason. Sometimes they don't have any clock around and they need visits.
Wow. Okay, let's go back to Neshech Chabad newsletter for a little bit, because in the intro, I shared the 2, qualifications that you have for an article. But can you talk a little bit more about how you decide whether to use an article or not? I'm sure you get many submissions.
I do, and I always feel bad saying no to any of them. And I think I worked very hard on how to say no. You know that. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings just because it's not a fit for us. Which is the right way. You talking, Sara, that's the right way to say it. Not a fit for us. In general, when I have to decide on an article and I really can't decide, I ask myself, Rishi, can you hand this to the Rebbe with pride? Or are you going to hope he doesn't notice this one? Ever since Gimel Tammuz 1994, I keep a physical copy of every issue in a special place in my house for the Rebbe. I'm saving them for the Rebbe. I'm going to give them to him. And I told my children also, because I don't want, just in case Mashiach doesn't come and I'm gone, I don't want them to think it's garbage. These are being saved for the Rebbe. And I do ask myself if I can hand it to the Rebbe with pride or not. And it's very good. It clarifies things immediately. I'll give you an example. I did an interview with Shabbos Kestenbaum. His name is Shabbos. Have you ever heard of him?
Sure.
He's the brave student who sued
Harvard
for anti-Semitism. And he's a great guy. And then we did a great interview, and I loved it. But a little bit, it glorified college. And I just said to myself, a little voice in my head started saying, the Rebbe doesn't want this. The Rebbe doesn't want this. I started taking out about college. There was no article left. It's about Harvard. It's about college. So I just... luckily, I also work for Hamodia, so I put it in Hamodia. They don't have the Rebbe. I'm not saving for the Rebbe Hamodias.
Right, so, and the audience is not necessarily impressionable about it to girls who you want to,
Also, I don't think that their Gedolim are speaking out the way the Rebbe did about college. Really,
Right.
Like, one thing that makes me happy is that none of my children has a degree. I'm happy.
That's Renachas.
I'm happy about that. I'm not saying all degrees are evil, and I understand we need some of them. I get it, but I really don't want that running after the degree worship. I don't want that. Also, my daughter-in-law doesn't, and none of my sons-in-law, Baruch Hashem, no one has a degree. You can make a living. My husband's run a successful business for decades without a degree. It's possible. You can do it.
Right, and especially with what's going on in campuses today, it becomes much more obvious how liberal and how anti-Jewish, the sentiment is there.
Right. Also, the Rebbe told a few people that you probably won't even end up using that degree. You'll end up doing something else. I mean, I have a friend who both her parents went to college and got degrees, and all four grandparents. And when she became Fro, about Shuvah, and she did not want, and she got a full scholarship to Harvard because she's so brilliant. Full scholarship to Harvard, people don't get.
Wow.
Yeah, she's very brilliant. And her parents, of course, wanted her to go. And she said, I really want to teach Chumash. I want to be a Chumash teacher. I don't want to go to Harvard. And they were so upset that they couldn't decide what to do. This was in the 80s, that they decided that three of them are all going to write letters to the Rebbe, put all three letters in the same envelope, and they all three agreed that whatever the Rebbe says, we're going to do. And they all three wrote about how they want her to go, and she wrote why she doesn't want to go, of course, because she was a Chassidus. And the Rebbe told her to go to Harvard and teach Tanya there.
Interesting.
And she did for 4 years. And as soon as she got out, she became a Chumash teacher. and she's been teaching Chumash for the last 30 years very happily.
Wow. As we're wrapping up, I want to go back to what we started with, this idea of indoctrination. So how's that going? How do you continue to do that?
I'll tell you, sometimes not everyone approves of it. Like, for example, I taught my grandchildren to memorize that the four lead to the four. What are the four? Milchiks, fleischiks, white flour, and sugar leads to cancer, diabetes, stroke, and heart disease. Exactly. So, like, sometimes my sons-in-law are like, "Oh, sugar, you taught them that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I mean,
that's my opinion."
Not everyone likes hearing that.
But on a Farbrengen level, on an indoctrination level, on a like chinuch value level, what are some things that you still indoctrinate your kids with?
Okay, so even like that about healthy food. Of course, I don't expect them right now to suddenly, in their childhood, suddenly start eating healthy. But it will come back to them when they'll be thinking about it when they're in their 20s, maybe their 30s, and they'll say, actually, maybe I don't have to make this kind of food. I can make that kind of food. The white flour, the sugar, for sure. I think we all agree on that, right?
I personally don't eat white flour and sugar, but I don't know that I have a rule against it. It doesn't work for me.
No, I sometimes break also. But I try not to, and I try not.
Right. See, I at the same time, I hesitate to demonize food, if that makes sense. Like I get it because in my personal life I don't eat these things, and at the same time, kids are kids.
Yeah, I know we did a plant-based feature, and it was very popular, and it was also very unpopular.
Right.
A lot of people hated it. A lot of people loved it. I love that kind of article. By the way, I don't know how many magazines publish letters that disagree with the magazine.
I think all do. That's part of the fun, no?
I think so, but not all do. I can tell you, I've written letters to Ami that they refuse to publish. Right, and I said, why aren't you publishing it? Because we don't want to publish misinformation or disinformation. Who says that your information is information?
Right, yeah, that I've seen. If there's a trending medical narrative, and if you publish something that's, let's say, energy-based or alternative, there's a lot of skepticism and hesitation. But still, I know that healthy eating is important, but I still want to know, in terms of like Chassidishkeit and Yiddishkeit, in terms of indoctrination, what is something that you still indoctrinate your future generations with?
So I'll tell you, we got together, we had a family reunion for my husband's 70th birthday. May he live and be well. And okay. And my kids were making, of course, Hindel. We call her, she's the boss of the family. So of course, I told him, I said, I know you're going to make a program and every minute's going to be filled. I want a half an hour to Farbrengen only with my grandchildren. I don't need my sons-in-law there. I don't need the whole gang, just my grandchildren. And we had a Farbrengen. And I told them, basically, I indoctrinated them very, very clearly. And I read them a letter from the Rebbe where the Rebbe writes to somebody, a frum life is a good life. And I said, you know what, let me hear you say that. And they said, a frum life is, no, let me hear you scream it. I made them scream.
You had all your grandkids screaming of "From Life is a Good Life."
Well, they weren't all there because there wasn't enough space in the place. But the older ones for sure were there.
I love it.
12 and up were definitely there. And I made them scream of "From Life is a Good Life." And I hope they'll remember it. I think they will.
Right, because that's really the party message that we want to give over. That
I also put that into my will.
I
put that letter from the Rebbe about "From Life is a Good Life" into my will.
Wow.
And I told them that I had been at a levaya recently, which I was, and behind the woman's coffin were marching Einiklach with their skirts flip-flop up, short skirts. And I said, if you do that to me, I'll die. And I said, oh, right, I'm dead already because you're reading my will. But like, I really want, I don't want them to wonder what I want. I don't want them to wonder what's right and wrong. And I want them to know it's not just about controlling yourself. It has nothing to do with Olam Haba. We're not that way. It has to do with right now having a good life. Right now.
This is the best life you can have for yourself.
It's like to have right now. Not because later it'll come back to bite. No, forget that.
It's the best life you could have. And it's the reason we were created by Hashem. So that's definitely the most powerful message of all. And I just want to thank you for your time and give all of us a bracha that yes, we should be able to be successful with Hashem's help and with tefillas to impart this value to our children, that a from life is a good life, and ultimately the ultimate life that we're all waiting for is a life of Mashiach, when everyone will see Hashem openly in a revealed way. And yeah, may we see our successes, and may we be proud to greet the Rebbe with our children.
Amen. And I also want to thank some of my amazing Bishvika teachers who I'll never forget. Mora Shulkrad, she was Rivka son. She married Shulkrad. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, sure.
She was my Chumash teacher. I loved her. I loved learning from her. Mora Rachel Kaplan, she was Machkin. She got married the year that she was teaching us. She taught us every sichos of the Rebbe in Yiddish. You had to just get the Yiddish. You had to get it. You're here to learn it. Nothing was being taught in English. And of course, Mara Garwitz, and of course, Mara Nyman, and of course, Mara Chayet Helden. We had wonderful, wonderful teachers who I'll never forget. And you know what? I think our kids also have some wonderful teachers. We just have to remind them that they are wonderful. I said, what? Like, just the other day, my granddaughter came home from Bishvika, and she showed me her test that she took from Mora Ella Lerman. You know what the test was? It was a crossword puzzle. Ella made a crossword puzzle for the kids to do as a test. I mean, I think that's amazing.
That's very clever.
It's so much fun, you know.
Mrs. Lerman, I mean, she's my hysteria teacher in 11th grade. She made hysteria alive. Like, yeah,
exactly. I never had it because she's younger than me. But
it's true. Beis Rivka is blessed to have so many dedicated teachers, and together, you know, and the mothers and the teachers, when we work together, the home and the school, we can really give this, you know, full chinuch to our daughters.
And let's talk to our children, our daughters, and our granddaughters about their good teachers. But how lucky they are to have the good ones. Of course, it's not always going to be all perfect with all teachers. But the good ones, let's focus on them.
Right. And I've never met a teacher who didn't care and who wasn't there because she really genuinely wanted to make a difference in their student's life. So Hakar Satayv is definitely warranted. Thank you again, Mrs. Deitsch. I learned a lot from this conversation. I hope you all did. So please subscribe, share the podcast, and wishing you all a beautiful, healthy summer.
Also subscribe to the Neshei Chabad newsletter while you're at it.
Absolutely.